All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Jefferson County Water Authority to order. Roll call, please.
Greg Camp,
Here.
Matt Unrein.
Here.
Terry Thomas.
Here.
Kevin Dennis.
Here.
Mark Johnson. Jim Caston.
All right, would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
But the United States of America,
to the
to the
republic for which it stands,
and one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
We have minutes from the regular board meeting of February 17th and the closed minutes from the same date. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Approval of bills. There was an updated agenda that did have some, well, no, there were no additions as far as that was concerned. Okay, so the amount here, 563, 419.89. Need a motion to approve the bills.
Motion. Second.
Roll call, please.
Greg Camp,
Yes.
Matt Unrein.
Yes.
Terry Thomas.
Yes.
Kevin Dennis.
Yes.
All right. Under old business, item 6 is the collector well monthly progress report. There's a report in there from our friends at Burns and McDonnell. If you have any questions about that. Otherwise, we'll move on. New business, staff report for the main plant UPS upgrade and replacement. We did get 2 bids on that from Reinhold and Guarantee. The recommendation there is to go with the low bid from Guarantee Electric, and we'll have a resolution for that later on unless anyone has any questions.
You okay with that, Jamie? The lower bid?
Yes, because we've used Ashinger before and Guaranteed has acquired Ashinger. So we have used Ashinger in the plant for quite a few years now, so totally okay with this.
All right.
Even better. Thanks.
Kevin, would you like to make a motion to approve the bid from Guarantee?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Greg Camp,
Yes.
Terry Thomas.
Yes.
Matt Unrein.
Yes.
Kevin Dennis.
Yes.
All right. We'll get to the details on that. Your audit, obviously, Sikich, used to be Hochschild Bloom and Company, did complete our audit for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2021. Everything else worked out very well. There were 2 small deficiencies in internal control that we'd like to address later on in the meeting. I don't know, Michelle, do you want to talk about that now or you want to talk about them individually? Okay. Anyone have any questions on the audit from Sikich?
Will they be our auditors next year as well? I don't know how many year contract that is.
Yes, next year is the last year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll jump down then. So the next item up would be the fixed asset policy, which is one of the deficiencies that they asked us to take a look at. There are some changes recommended here, some dealing with GASB that doesn't affect us anymore. At the end of the day, I think more than anything else, Michelle, what we're asking to do is for a yearly report to come to the Water Authority, correct?
Okay, so what happens at the end of the year is I get a report to Jamie and he goes through all the capitalized assets that are depreciated for the audit. And he'll let me know whether or not I need to dispose of the asset. And so typically those items have never been presented to the board before because they're like a pump. What were some of the items that were disposed of last year?
Just simple equipment. That's kind of like, for example, I haven't disposed of it yet, but when we had the low lift replaced, it's sitting there. It needs to be scrapped.
Okay.
We've got old motors and stuff like that. Whenever we replace it, chemical feed pumps, stuff like that. It's one of those we have no use for it. So
My preference would be to not take those types of items to the board. Only equipment like a truck a vehicle or a Bobcat or something like that. I mean, I'm fine with it. If you guys still want to do that, I can get you a list.
I think we perhaps set a threshold and items below the threshold can just be disposed of, and anything above the threshold, as long as
Right.
it's kept as an itemized list and then is presented to us, say, in July, where council can, or not council, but the authority can then take a look at the list, vote to dispose, and then you'll have it in time for the auditors coming in.
Yeah, Jamie, I might have to get the inventory to you a little sooner,
That's fine.
right after year end.
Right.
And then we can get it to the board to approve like in October or November, and then the audit will start.
Okay,
Right.
so whatever timetable works best for
Yeah.
the auditors to be able to see
Right,
the disposal list.
right.
I think that's
Right.
probably the way we need to go. Would you be comfortable with, say, a $5,000 threshold?
Well, that's what our assets are depreciated at right now, so that's fine.
Okay, so anything
Yeah.
under 5,000. So the amendment to the policy here, in addition to removing these forms, the asset transfer disposal and the application to transfer infrastructure, to remove those forms and then include language. Obviously, the deletions of the stuff in the capital asset policy that don't apply anymore.
Right,
Like the GASB 89, but to amend the policy to state that assets under $5,000 can be disposed of at the plant manager's discretion, and assets over 5,000 will be kept in an itemized list presented to the authority. Authority will then vote to dispose, and
okay,
whatever timetable you want to put it on. So whether
Okay.
it's September or October.
right,
Okay.
okay.
Does that work? Does that work for everyone?
Yes,
And you
Okay.
guys are okay with me eliminating the forms then? Because we really just don't use them.
Yeah, there's three forms here. It's the Exhibit A. Kevin, here, I can pop this up on Zoom real quick if you want to take a look. Let me share the screen and you'll be able to see which form we're talking about. Here it is. So this is the one form. It's all part of our existing fixed asset policy. So there's the acquisition form, the asset transfer disposal stolen form, and then the developer application to transfer infrastructure. We don't use these at all. So we'd like to remove them from the policy. Obviously, clear out this language here related to GASB 89 because it doesn't apply. And then update this language on disposal of capital assets so that it reflects basically what we just talked about. It'd be
right,
this part right here,
right.
the $5,000 threshold, and then an itemized list above that at the end of the fiscal year.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, I have no problem with that at all.
What's the threshold, Greg? I didn't see it listed.
It's not in there.
It's not.
So I think what we'd like to do is set a threshold so that we don't have, if it's a cordless drill, keeping that on an itemized list for the authority to vote on as part of that disposal list is going to get busy. So I think if we say that it's below a certain amount, that's at the plant manager's discretion. And then anything above that amount is part of the itemized list.
Right, right, right. If not, he's gonna have stuff everywhere, police
Right.
department.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and the
get
other
cluttered
thing
in a hurry.
is what I can do is on top of that, whatever I dispose of, I can take pictures and send them to Michelle's and we can attach them if you like.
And that could be part of I know we do that audit. I think Matt was just part of that audit that we do.
Because I'll be honest, as far as whatever I do, as far as serial numbers, stuff like that, I take a picture of the entire placard and send it to her.
Okay.
That way she has all the information. Well, it helps.
Then I ask for it later on when I'm doing the fixed assets, but.
But hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
But that's like, for example, I'm assuming instead of all at the end of the year, if I need to dispose of a big pump or something like that, we can do that periodically throughout the year.
That would be nice. If you
'Cause-
know it's on the list.
Well, that's kind of like right now, I need to get rid of both those old lime slurry pumps and that.
And they're on the list.
Well, we just replaced the lime slurry pumps with new lime slurry pumps.
Okay.
So,
I
I
would
mean,
assume-
there's documentation that we've got new pumps. What are we gonna do with the old ones?
Right.
So
Unless they were part of the original equipment.
they were original.
Okay, so it wouldn't be on the list.
Okay,
Because it's
so
been,
can them?
Well, you can still take it to the board and tell them how you
I
want to
mean, it's
dispose
up
of
to you
it.
guys. I mean, it's
well, what was the purchase price of the new pumps? An individual pump.
40 something $1,000
Right. So
installation
I
and
think,
all.
I think
Yeah,
bringing them, despite the fact that they're probably off your list because they've been depreciated off.
mhm. Well, they're part of the overall project when the
Okay,
plant was built.
So they weren't itemized.
Yeah,
I think anytime, regardless of whether it was itemized, so if it's an original equipment piece,
yeah, I
Mhm.
think so too.
but its replacement cost is in excess of the 5,000, I think that still needs to be on the
Mhm.
itemized list that we're going to approve.
Yeah. Just a good paper trail. It's.
Yeah.
Maybe just put that in your staff report.
That can be done.
Yeah,
Okay.
or bring it as or a staff report probably to
Sure.
dispose of it.
Sure.
And how you're going to dispose of it.
Okay.
Sure.
Can we have a motion to allow Michelle to proceed with the revisions to the fixed asset policy?
Motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll have that for us at the next meeting. Also in here is, this is again based off a recommendation from the auditors, which is the adjustments to the purchasing policy. The recommendation here is to update and set new guidelines that basically set tiers. So what we would like to do is that anything less than 4,000, of course, would be solicited in the most expedient manner. And that's where we would either go and get telephone quotes, or they could be submitted by fax or email. Then tier 2 is basically anything more than 4, but less than 10.
Well, can I back up? Because I think what you were saying earlier, the first tier was the original, less than, that was
To
literally.
drop it to
le-
2,500.
Right, 2,500 that Jamie has the right, up to 2,500, Jamie has the
Yeah,
right to go
I'm sorry, I
ahead.
misread that.
So
so the
can we go
recommendation-
through the tiers together and say yes or no if the board agrees with that? So then that way I can either adjust the policy that I'm drafting, and then I'd like to have maybe 2 directors review it with Jamie and make sure that we've got everything covered.
Okay. So you want recommendations on the specific tiers?
Yes, just
Okay.
there's 4 specific tiers. If we could just run through those real quick, that kind of lets me
Sure.
know that you guys agree with my assessment of the new policy.
Okay, on the screen here then, the recommendation for the adjustment to tier 1 is to drop from 4 to 2,500 or less. And then, of course, whether or not Jamie would go with the most expedient method possible to get the best possible price. So is everyone in favor of the recommendation shown here for the new tier 1?
Yes.
Any concerns?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So moving down to tier 2, the recommendation here is any budgeted purchase or contract services in excess of 25, but less than 5,000 would be based on at least 3 competitive bids. They may be obtained orally with follow-up confirmation in writing. A written memo listing the received bids and purchase requests must be submitted to the treasurer when submitting the invoice. So,
Okay, this tier, let me back up for
Go
just a
ahead.
minute, Greg. So in the prior, the one that Tom Ward had required board approval from 4,000 to 10,000. So my tier would be from 2,500 to 5,000. As long as it's a budgeted purchase or service and it's within budget, that it does not require board approval, but he still has to get the 3 competitive bids.
correct. So that it's a more formalized purchasing
So a
process.
Right.
budgeted purchase, does that mean
It's-
Jamie has a maintenance line and it's within his maintenance line?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make
Yes.
sure.
Now, as something as far as another addition to that, that's kind of like, for example, there's certain things that we can only get from certain companies. That's kind of like, for example, all our analyzers throughout the entire facility and all our lab equipment and stuff all coincides. So it's all hawk stuff.
Yeah, I think as long as we note on the
Right.
bid that it's vendor specific
Right.
and there's only going to be
Okay.
one, that's
And the-
understandable.
And the policy has exemption items.
Mhm.
I'm just showing the tier parts here because I
Right.
think that's where the board needs to get involved with.
Right. And that's the thing is that's kind of like, for example, we've get like our fluoride gas, our lime and fluoride. Both are chlorine gas and fluoride come from DPC Industries, which is a Festus local entity. So they, as far as that, it would make the most sense as far as freight and everything else, getting it from that entity instead of going out. I've checked into it before and nobody even close can compete. Mississippi lime,
Right.
there's no other lime plant even close to us that wouldn't have to truck it far, far out of state, which drives the cost up.
Well, I think like Greg said, maybe a pair of us sit down with you and go over the policy to make sure that the policy relative to those type of examples
Mhm.
makes sense. And then we have the right type of exemptions that Michelle mentioned, and that's
Yep.
fine.
Mhm.
But I think for today's purposes, I think the tiers that you've mentioned, Greg, sound good to me.
So
Yes.
the recommendation for the change to tier 2, is everyone okay with the recommendation there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. So then lastly, which of, well, not lastly, I'm sorry, third, is a modification of tier 3 and adding tier 4. So this is 5,000, but less than 10. That's 3 written competitive bids, but then tier 4 obviously is the complete formal process. Anything over $10,000 where we need to obviously publish, basically do an RFP and RFQ.
Mhm.
So the recommendation, those are kind of tied together. Does anyone have any concerns related to tier 3 or tier 4 amendments?
I want to make a comment again, because in their Tom Ward's tier 3, it does require board approval from 4 to 10. I am suggesting as long as it's a budgeted purchase that you guys already approved through the budget, that it does not recommend a board approval. The only thing that I'm requesting is anything over 10,000 that's a formal
Mhm.
proposal.
And again, I think it ties to the comment that Matt just made related to if it's budgeted and it's under budget, then even in tier 3, that would be something that would not require a formal presentation to the board.
The only time that it would require to come back to the board is say, Jamie, anything over, I think in the policy I wrote, anything over 5,000 that's not budgeted
Mhm.
would have to come to the board. But if it's in the budget, then it doesn't have to.
It speeds up the process. I mean, essentially, we're going to see it in the budget. So we've approved the amount. We've already allocated the funds.
Right.
And as long as it stays within budget, then it certainly speeds the process up of it not having to come back and get basically a second approval.
Mhm.
So there, and then again, tier 4 is the above 10,000 is the complete formal process. So is everyone comfortable with tier 3 and the addition of tier 4? Or any amendments or changes to that?
I do have one question, and I want to make sure, did you say that it's still going to be in tier 3 or will still be submitted to the treasurer?
Yeah.
And
So-
all of these will be submitted to
Okay.
the treasurer.
Okay,
So he-
I couldn't see what that other
Yeah,
sentence says. So I wanna
I'm
make sure-
sorry, the screen, a written memo listing the received bids and purchase requests must be submitted to the treasurer
Okay,
when submitting the invoice.
all right,
That's on
fine.
tier 3.
That's fine.
Is everyone okay then with tier 3 and tier 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that will come back as an amendment. We'll have a draft related to that for everyone to approve. You actually have a draft here.
Well, can we have 2 directors maybe to get with Jamie and go over the policy just to make sure that everything else, the way it's written, is
Sure.
okay with them?
Well, I need to get with Jamie to go over my audit review stuff anyway, so I'm happy to volunteer. I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone there.
The policy draft is listed here on pages 100 or 102 through 107, I believe. So if anyone has some time to take a look at that, I'm happy to do it. We could ask our friends in Herculaneum to do it. Not you, Terry, you came to the meeting today, so I think you're off the hook.
Make Jim
I'm
do
happy
it.
to.
So it
I-
seems
I
to me
have
that
no
him or
problem.
Mark, yeah.
I have nothing to do. I got
Oh.
plenty of time.
Well,
And it doesn't hurt if everybody wants to look at it and just email me with their comments, or you think something needs to be changed, or, I mean, we can bring it back.
okay.
Whatever.
So let's plan on within the next month, all of us will take a look at the tier amendments, but also the draft of the purchasing policy as a whole.
Mhm.
And then you'll have a resolution prepared for the next meeting to adopt unless there's any changes or amendments. In the next month, somebody sees something they don't like or wants
Right.
to have questions answered about, we'll do it that way.
Yeah,
Okay,
sounds good.
seem fair? Okay. But it, just as a whole and to memorialize it for the sake of, can we have just a quick vote, a motion and a second on the tiers, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think everybody's okay, but if everyone's okay, can we have a motion second and just a voice vote?
Sure, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll put it in the record that way. All right, up next, item 8 is resolutions. This is one for the contract with Guarantee Electrical. Can we have a director introduce resolution 2022-36?
So moved.
In a second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. After that, will the clerk please read the bill?
Resolution of the Jefferson County Water Authority of Festus, Missouri, authorizing the chairman to enter into and execute a contract with Guarantee Electrical Construction Company, incorporating said agreement as a part of this resolution, prescribing the conditions thereto and establishing an effective date.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none. Motion,
Motion to adopt.
second?
Second.
Oh, hey.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Kevin Dennis,
Yes.
Matt Unrein,
Yes.
Greg Camp.
Yes. All right. Last up, the reports. We have those here for you. Kevin, did I just feel you were getting used to watching that, weren't you? I can put that back up if you like.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, sorry. We do have reports again for the trial balance, general ledger, cash activity, revenue and expenditure report, Jamie's plant manager report. Any questions about any of that? Hearing none. Any comments or questions from the board of directors?
Terry, do you want to give your update on the internal control and how that went so far, since you pretty much finished yours?
Basically, man, it's tough for you to do with a full-time job. It took me several days to get mine done, and I have nothing to do. No, for me, I won't say it's fun to do because it's not really fun to do, but it keeps me more on my toes. It keeps me up with the policy, and I go through, and the more I look at it, the more I find a few things that need to be tweaked. But overall, I went through it and surprised Jamie. I showed up and said, "Hey, Jamie, I'm here." And he goes, "Yeah, for my surprise inspection." But anyway, he knew where everything was and went right to it. Even the one that hasn't been used for so long was so full of dirt and dust and stays in one room, and it just stays there. But no, it's still there. And he knew exactly where everything was, and 77-piece ratchet set that he keeps hidden in his office so nobody takes anything out of it. But no,
Was the 1/2 inch and 10 millimeter socket still in there?
every single piece of the 77
Because
piece
those are
was
the
there.
first to disappear.
Yes.
Well, this
You
was a
drop 'em and
well,
they
this was
roll
a
off the-
tap and die set, so you're right. The 10 millimeter could have went somewhere. Oh,
Well, those are so easy to lose. You just sit there doing, you drop when it rolls off and it drops down a crack
Oh,
somewhere
you-
and you can't get it
I'll tell
back.
you what, you have no idea how many wrenches and socket sets we've went through. It's like, well,
But-
that went in the lime. Mm.
But going through the checks and going through the journal entries, I mean, I did my part, but
Okay.
Morgan had to pull everything, and
Yeah.
what she didn't pull, and she had to pull again, then Michelle's really good about doing it, but it's a better way to make sure that everything is good. And it keeps me up more on things and I
Yeah.
know what's going on and it's good. So I like to be more involved and I know it doesn't make anybody mad, but kind of makes me mad. I have to do it, but it's good for me.
You just said you liked it.
I know, I like it. I enjoy it. I don't hesitate, but it's fun.
We thank you for taking the time.
Sound like it's good for his mental health. It's helping his memory.
I'm glad
I
you
don't-
came up there.
And I know Matt's in the process of completing his portion as well. So we'll have that taken care of here shortly. So but thank you to Bo.
Yeah, and there was I had plenty of questions for Michelle and, you know, most of them we understood and say, okay, and we find a couple things that we have to correct. So it's fun. It's good.
It gives you an appreciation for the hard work that she does and the
Absolutely.
job that she
Yeah.
does on our behalf. So
Outstanding.
It's-
She helps me a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's to her credit, really.
We
Everybody,
help each other a lot.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
If there isn't anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you all.